Konnichiwa. Hello, everyone. What do you think so far? Yeah? There's a lot of exciting things going on. As Michael pointed out earlier, the team particularly in Belgrade, have done a phenomenal and tireless job at getting us to the point where we're at today, right here, right now, and that's very exciting. I'm going to try and go through my stuff very fast because we are running about an hour or so over. So thank you for your patience. Hopefully, it's nice to see you still here. So that's great. I wanted to just first of all touch on a little bit on the journey that got us here. I mean, Michael talked about it a bit. John talked about it. It's almost 3 years that we've been working on this, and John talked about Michael being on the road. John was working on things there to consult on a lot of the technology aspects, and I started playing with the financial model and just became consumed by it, and started building out a base model that grew into this very complex spreadsheet that became hundreds and hundreds of worksheets, most of which we're still using as a model today. And so it was very interesting. As John was saying, Michael would call John. Michael we'd arrange for a call, and we'd say, let's catch up. There's a few things we should go over. We'd have like 20 minutes to have a conversation. 4 hours later, after working through the various things, we'd get off the phone at 4 a.m. for at least one of us, and it's been very, very interesting. So I think many of you know that the very first city that we marketed in was Kuala Lumpur in 2016. There's a number of KL people here. Thank you for attending today. That was a huge moment, and I'm just going to highlight a couple of the big moments in our past. That's also from KL. Then I mentioned earlier that we did a quick stop in Bangkok and Singapore, and that was really the kickoff to our marketing. We were an affiliate-based marketing program then, and then we went on to, we did other things, but the next sort of thing that is key to the background of what I'm going to drive at in a moment here is that we did an event in Dubai. We announced that the network marketing program, we introduced the Net Leaders brand. That was a big change. Then, of course, as Michael pointed out, there's the huge moment in Zurich when we launched the blockchain, and it was really the birth of the first DasCoin, which was kind of cool. And I think many of you were there. And then, of course, today. So, yeah, the exchange, that's amazing. And Michael pointed out earlier that this moment cannot be overstated on how critical and how important it is to everything that we're doing. Because, many of you that have worked with us, worked on this project in whatever capacity, know that some people question what we're doing. And this is a huge validation moment, and I look forward to next week as the real market is there trading and active and seeing where things settle. I look forward to learning and seeing how our community as a whole really approaches this. We have a great opportunity in front of us. We can actually take and continue to take, and hopefully we can all continue to take this long-term approach. Like, this is an incredible moment, and some of us have been, there's in fact people here that have bought licenses June 15th, 2016. Actually, that might not be true. You guys, I think, bought a license the 16th or 17th. But, a very long time in waiting. But we're at this point where it is possibly, it certainly is the most important point in our short history. It's, as Michael said, possibly the most important point going forward for a very, very long time. But the interesting thing is now we're kind of at the same point that the other 800 cryptocurrencies are at, and they probably have this question too, and we certainly have it. It's this concept of what's next. And so because of our unique ecosystem, we have this opportunity to address that and to address that in advance. And we saw George talking about some of the innovations that already exist in Web Wallet and some of the innovations that are coming. But there's this, all of those things happen inside the ecosystem. DAS Financial is starting this process where it is now managing the gateway for the outside coming in. So it's managing the gateway to our ecosystem. And I want to touch on and go through some of these kind of quickly, because we talk frequently about blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, how disruptive the technology is, and the impact it's going to have across many sectors. But let's take a look at the financial services sector. It's probably the most critical aspect of sort of our normal lives. It touches all of us in some capacity, one way or another. We rely very heavily on the financial services sector, and those that are successful in it are usually phenomenally successful. We saw a few of them sitting on their perches like the Jamie Dimons of the world. And as someone pointed out, it was actually ironic because I think the day that he made the statement about about Bitcoin, his San Francisco office was hosting a Bitcoin conference. And so you look that up. It's quite ironic that and I think they're all still employed, by the way, and part of his statement was he would fire any employee he caught, I don't know what he said exactly, but trading or promoting Bitcoin. So so in this, if you look at the financial services sector, there's basically 8 categories. You could dumb everything down that happens within the financial services sector into 8 categories. And it really relates to some form, authenticating and attesting to value. We actually just experienced, we've been talking for years about authentication, and we're seeing next week, not so much today, but we're seeing next week that attestation to value as we start to trade. The transfer of value. So, that happens whether you go into your bank and you wire transfer money from one country to another, and just a short 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 days later, it gets to the destination. There is a transformation coming where, as we all know, you can do that instantly. There's several other sectors. So you could store value. Again, that's our banks provide those services. We're going to see transformation in the way we store value, not only on the validator, which is brilliant, but you're going to see it open up to other opportunities. And be thinking of those opportunities, introduce those opportunities. There are many things that you can do in that realm. I can tell you that we're thinking of them. There's lending value. So another aspect. You may have heard Blair talk about microfinance. There's many, many forms of things that you can do. And if you think of what's happening or what has happened in the last 8 years to the crypto sector, there's just hoarding. And that's great. But when there's a little bit of fear, then there's lots of selling. I think that if you actually have alternatives and your cryptocurrency could make you money, it creates a whole different dynamic. We're going to be seeing that. We're going to be participating in that. We're going to be announcing some things about that in the future. You can exchange value. That is the DAS exchange. It's our future exchanges that we talk about, our public exchanges. We will be introducing a public exchange that's going to trade multiple cryptocurrencies and fiat currencies, and that's coming. And we've been actively working on it. Then insurance, insurtech they talk about. That's a massive category. It's also much like, you often hear about the legacy banking system and how inefficient and how problematic it is. The insurance industry is such that the money that you pay for your policy, you can is to cover unnecessary fat in the middle, that inefficient overhead in the middle. We recently have been working on a project and looked at a financial model, and we were talking about a more efficient way of putting policies on blockchain technology, using smart contracts, and of course cryptocurrency to execute. By utilizing a smart contract, you could actually be automatically paid out, or your beneficiary, if it was a life insurance, there could be auto execution of that policy. And so we were looking at it, and this is right up with the whole model's mapped out, and right through to the reinsurer. That, and I said, do you think that we could save as much as 50%? Their data tells them they could save 88% by going direct and cutting out all of the unnecessary middlemen. And that I find, on one hand, disgusting. On the other hand, I find it as an amazing opportunity. And so you're going to hear more about this. But I'm sharing some of these things because I want to actually incite you to get creative, get out there, be thinking about these things. There's a whole opportunity opening up to us in the way investing happens, creating different types of funds, different ways of making money. And in all of these cases, if we compare what's available to us today or what's available to us even in the near future, it's going to be incredibly disruptive to the legacy system. So our financial services, as we know it, is going to change radically. The last of the 8 categories within the financial services realm is, of course, the accounting for and auditing value. And that concept is as simple as accounting. And if you think of the way accounting is done today, you get your financial statements, even if they're audited financial statements, and they're kind of like a picture, a historical picture, a snapshot of a moment in time. As we look into the future, it's entirely feasible. When you have the government of Dubai saying, for example, that every one of its transactions is going to be on blockchain technology by 2020, if you think of a company that does everything on blockchain technology, then every transaction is validated, it's immutable, it's recorded. So you could, in essence, the concept of financial statements as we know them today, I don't think will exist in the future. I think that what will happen is I could look at the financial statements in the morning, and if it were an active company, you could look at them in the afternoon. They would be different. They'd both be accurate. It would be a live, living being. That's not something that necessarily we're interested in, but it's coming. It's affecting us all. And so with the DOS ecosystem, the way we have it designed, and the way the role that DOS Financial is starting to ramp up, we're opening an office in London. In the audience somewhere is Matthew Roxborough-Smith, who's going to head up that office. And so if you get a chance to meet him and talk to him, DOS Financial will be touching on probably 5 of these categories. But it's continuing with the same mission, the same foundation that has got us from the very beginning to where we are now and where we're going. And things like prosperity for everyone, the focusing on how to better serve and deal with getting the world's the 2.5 billion adults that we keep talking about that don't have access to financial services. There's a tremendous number of opportunities, possibilities, and tremendous number of ways that we can change people's lives. And it's always inspirational when you have people like Augustine that takes care of 138 children, but we can actually impact millions of people's lives, and you guys can do that as well, and we certainly can do that collectively. So I'm almost done, and there's one thing that I wanted to share with you, because this concept of prosperity for everyone, we know that some of the next phases, I mentioned Q1, public exchange. We have talked about what's happening in Q2, of course, which is DOS Pay. It is a very important aspect of presentation. It's this slide. We talk about it being the silver bullet. It is going to be absolutely an exciting moment when we can turn that on, when we have liquidity in the exchanges, when we, I just don't know of any other cryptocurrency that is on the path that will get us there. So one of the things that we, within the financial services realm, are working on, we've been spending time with regulators. I recently went to a meeting and joined some other people that are in the audience. And so we went to meet with what I thought we were just going to meet with a regulator. And so we made the meeting, picked the date, time. There were 2 or 3 people from the regulator attending. And then the next day we get a call, is it okay if we have 5 people? Sure, no problem. Great opportunity to meet more. Next day, 10 people. That's next evening, 15 people. 2 days before the meeting, 20 people, 25 people. The morning of the meeting, 30 people. When we actually got in, they had to change from a boardroom to a conference room. They had 31 people attending the meeting. At about 15, it was really intimidating. After that, it just, whatever, shoot arrows into me. It was an amazing experience because they were very open. They really wanted to learn. I think George pointed out earlier, they want you to engage with them. We've met a number of regulators around the world, and they want engagement. They're very open. When you see the negative press that George put up there, I would argue that lots of it's either temporary, it's absolutely needed. So when we're standing with the regulators, we're saying, please regulate. But throw out the old rules, let's start new, and let's figure out how we can make it so that it's beneficial for everyone. And so in closing, the thing that I want to announce today is that DOS Pay will be an ICO in 2018, and so you'll be kept abreast of that. We're going to be sharing some information before the end of the year, and it's going to be an exciting launch that we look forward to sharing with everyone. So thank you.